Hello, everyone. My name is Heidi Schwab, and I am the program coordinator here at the Hoboken Library. I just want to welcome everybody here tonight, and I'm sure this is going to be a wonderful program. But I'm just here to tell you that the Hoboken Library is an amazing resource, and we have so many wonderful programs. For example, a week from tonight, we're having a Manhattan Short Film Festival. This is a film festival that's going on around the globe next week, and you can come and you could judge the films. And we just have so many music programs, art programs, knitting programs. The list just goes on and on. So I hope that you visit our website and see all the wonderful things we have here and take advantage of it. So now I'd like to introduce the director of tonight's performance. Her name is Beatrice.
I want to welcome you, and she's absolutely right. They have such wonderful stuff in this library. I'm amazed when I look at the website. There's so much wonderful. I mean, there's something every week. This play is called The Three Viewings by a man named Jeffrey Hatcher. I happened upon it one day on the internet looking for plays based on monologues. He's shooting me, so I have to move on.
You look good.
Like the way I tap danced. And I found this, and it takes place in a funeral home at 3 different times, and deals with 3 different people who don't really know each other and never interact, although their paths do cross with other people that they mention within the context of each of their individual monologues. The first character is named Emile. Emile has a secret. Emile's story takes place over the course of several months. Okay. The second story is of a woman named Mac. And Mac has an unusual hobby. Leave it at that. The third story is about a woman named Virginia. And Virginia is a widow who is learning all sorts of interesting things about her husband who has passed. So enjoy the stories. Laugh in the right spots. You'll know where they are. You'll know it's a funny one. And enjoy these 3 wonderful actors. It's David Silberger, oh my God, Laura DeSerto, and Florence Pape. So enjoy.
I love you. 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 I love. She almost saw me. Whew, that's a close one. Real heart stopper. The beat coming out of my shirt like a bomb about to explode. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. This is all getting much more difficult. I started with just one. I love you. Very quiet. Very small, but audible. I love you, said to the back of her head as she moved through the room, holding hands, smiling, brushing back a tear. If she turns around in the middle of I love you, I thought, she'll catch me. She'll catch me, and she'll hear, and she'll see, and she'll know. She'll catch me, and I'll be happy to be caught. But one I love you wasn't really enough. One I love you was too subtle. So I advanced to 2. I love you. I love you. Still, she didn't turn in time. I went to 3. I love you. I love you. I love you. Nothing. Now I'm up to 9. This is the first time she's almost seen me say it. What I've done if she had. It's been 9 times since the first at Carl Grunwald's funeral. Tessie in a red jacket, somewhat inappropriate, admittedly, but it stands out. That's the point. In a red jacket, moving through the room, looking for her flowers, handing out her card. I was standing next to the casket, doing what we funeral directors do, when it struck me. All the years I've known her, same town, same people, how we're always flung together, and all of a sudden, she's in my mind all the time. First thought at morning, last thought at night. I watched her, me, standing next to Carl, Tessie, giving her real estate card to Ruth Grunwald. Tessie never presses her card. They always ask. She doesn't push. They do go home with her card every time. I looked at her in her red jacket and her black hair and her blue eyes and white skin and said, I love you. Even Carl could have heard me, but Tessie didn't. Tessie came up to me. Carl looks good, she murmured. Thanks. He lost a lot of weight in the hospital. 6 weeks. I think we brought him back to snuff. Tessie smiles. Margaret Mary Walsh approaches the casket, and we turn. Tessie and I turn to face Margaret Mary together at the casket, both of us greeting her like a couple. The most natural thing in the world. I'm up to 9 now. Next time, I'll have to go up to 10. Nettie James died yesterday. She was 103. Been on the verge of death for 28 years. Coal money, very rich, terrible woman. The Herald Star made up a headline for her obituary that read, Nettie James finally dies. Civic and social leader succumbs after a lifetime of condescension and bullying. They didn't print it. It's a big affair, private service. I got Tessie in. Not that the James family is going to sell the house on Norton Place, let alone use Tessie's real estate company, but it's good for Tessie to be seen, and I got her on the list. She's in the visitation room. Nettie James looks very small in her casket. She's been tissue paper and cobwebs these past few decades. Now I'm up to 12. I love you. 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 She never turns. Admittedly, I tend to start my chant when she's deep in conversation with someone. Margaret Mary Walsh, Bob O'Clock, Art Wise, Dale Featheringham, so there's very little chance of her suddenly turning to look at me. Wouldn't it be wonderful if she suddenly turned to look at me? What if I could catch her eyes suddenly turning to look at me? A man can always feel a woman's irises clicking in her head when she turns to steal a glance at him. He can feel it in his peripheral vision. A little blue and white whip at you and back. Look back at her, and the blue whips away. If I could feel that, then I'd know. There's nothing in life more obvious than one person looking longingly at another, unless it's a person desperately trying not to look at all. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I hate her name. Tessie. Not Teresa. Not Tess. Tessie. She used to be married. Marvin Van Kirk, he's at Wintersville High, teaches math. Expectations plus Marvin equals reality. Oh, they're still friendly. Marvin remarried Estelle Calabria. Tessie got her real estate license after the divorce. Got the idea when Johnny Chris and Joe Bethel and Dale Featheringham and the rest of the 10%ers all came to her mother's funeral. Now, Tessie's part of the pack. But she's different. Maybe I just think she's different. No, she's different. I love you. I love you. We go into the service. The Reverend Dr. James A. Zimbro III officiating. I won't say Jim Zimbro's an unimaginative minister, but he is known in the trade as the Reverend Dr. Insert deceased name here. He begins. The love that lasts, my mind withdraws to other places. It's a depressed real estate market. That's why Chris, Bethel, the whole bunch swooped down so. It's harder for Tessie, but she's talented. And she has more than promise, I know. The way she can describe a house, I almost bought 4 myself. She's on commission and it's getting tight. A slow season. She tells me about wanting to travel, to get away. Mexico, the Berkshires, Spain. I tell her how difficult it is for me to get away. No slow season. She laughs. Her laugh, her smile, her flashing eyes, her floating hair. She has not had an easy life.
Father was an alcoholic. Mother spent 12 years dying in the state hospital. The divorce. And she wears a pacemaker, Tessie, something congenital to regulate her heart. I love you. I love you. I love you. I have to help her. We'll find a way to help her. I have started to give Tessie advance word of imminent deaths. Sometimes I get a warning. Hospital, police, a friend in power. Last week, Bill Goodpastor told me his wife Marge has a brain tumor. Bill thinks she may not last the week. Marge looked so old the last time she came here. And Bill? Bill still looks like Paul Newman on sheep gland injections. Marge is dying. The house is too big. Bill told me I told Tessie. Unethical? Maybe. It's a slippery slope. But passion is a bracing lubricant. I love you. I love you. I love you. I'm up to 17 now. Sometimes I think she knows I'm saying it, and that's why she doesn't turn. I have considered driving past her house at night, the light in the window, the nose pressed against the pane, but I have restrained myself. That way leads to madness. The padded cell, the perch in the book depository window. I am not like that. Why don't I just tell her? What's the worst that could happen? Mockery? Humiliation? A howl of derision followed by 20 years of averted glances? There should be a kind of safety net for these moments. A magic shroud you could use. You go up to the woman, you say, I've been meaning to tell you, I love you. If she says, I love you too. Oh, great. Fantastic. Everyone goes to the prom. She gets red in the face, takes your hand and says, that's so flattering. You're such a friend. Then you say, excuse me, but I have to lower the magic shroud now? And she forgets everything said to her in the last 30 seconds. You're such a friend. A knife in the heart. Anyways, Marge Goodpastor died yesterday. Bill called from his Jaguar. Tessie came early to the visitation. I wanted to introduce her to Bill before the rush and the cremation. I am making this vow. If my I love you gambit does not prove fruitful, I will take drastic action. I will tell her my true feelings before the year is out. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Jim Zimbro is talking about the love that lasts. I have 35 days. Tessie said I hate you today, and I think there's hope. At the Green Mill, we bumped into each other outside the bank Christmas shopping. I offered lunch. Tessie said she had to meet Bill Goodpastor to show his house, but, she says, and I quote her, what the hell? Let's have lunch. What do you think of that? We were talking about these last few referrals I made her. She sold 3 houses. Good commissions. She's breathing a little easier now, and she wanted to take me to lunch. I told her, you know, I can't keep slipping you these tips forever. We're going to run out. I'll have to start killing them myself. She laughed. She said, you're terrible. I hate you. And she slapped me. Oh, just my lower arm across the table next to the coffee cup. Her fingers brushed my wrist near my watch, skin to skin. I almost jumped. Red face, adrenaline, dizziness, vertigo. Just a touch on my wrist. This has happened to me before, this sort of thing. I let it run its course. It goes away, lasts a few weeks. This one is in its 11th month. Is it painful? It hurts, but not like hell. I'd rather have this particular pain than its particular absence. Desire plus denial equals, well, I'm not a Catholic, so I don't know what the hell it equals. It has gone long enough, though. Fury or humiliation. I will tell her by December 31st, New Year's Eve. But I wish she'd guess it first. I wish she'd tell me. Read my mind. Read my lips. Maybe I'll start using code, writing I love you in the floral tributes or underneath the lids of the caskets. Cryptography and the swirl of a dead person's hair. Find the Nina. Suddenly, out of nowhere, she asks me a question. Do you know when you're in love? My heart has stopped. What? I said, she said, do you know when you're in love? Oh, yes. How? I'm stalling for time. I'm trying to think, but I'm on fire. My brain is swimming. The floor tilts. A descent into maelstrom. Finally, I manage. A cracked voice at the bottom of my shoes. You always know. Knowing isn't the point. The point is action. The point is speaking. That kind of action. That kind of courage. I am swirling in her eyes, in her hair. She is smart. She is bright. She has depth and breadth. And the world is lit by lightning. Why do you ask? I ask. She doesn't smile. She looks at me. 3 seconds. Eye to eye. 1, I love you. 2, I love you. 3, I love you. I'm shouting the words in my mind, but my lips are sealed. Surely she can hear me. Please, God, let her hear me. She breaks her stare. Never mind. She'll pay the check. I'll leave the tip. Exiting, I place my hand under her elbow. She allows it. She does not comment. Outside, she kisses me goodbye. Cheek. Another detonation to the skin. My heart is racing. She walks away. The last I see of her is a slip on a patch of ice. And she rights herself and turns the corner. Today is December 7th, a day that will live in infamy. I have 24 more shopping days. Ed Carpellotti died, and Tessie didn't come to the funeral. It was a 3-day affair. I left a message on her machine telling her all about Ed, just the usual. But there was no reply. A day passes. I call again, get her machine, leave another message. No reply. 2 days more. The day of the burial, December 21st, the longest day of the year. I tell Jim Zimbro, we should go another day. Not everyone who would want to see Ed has had the chance. Jim looks at me like I'm nuts. You want to extend it? Well, what about Art Wise, I sputter, and Johnny Chris, and Joe Bethel, and Dale Featheringham, and Bill Goodpaster. Bill's in Florida, says Jim. Went down Friday. He and Tessie. Ba-boom. 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 I slammed down the coffin lid. Let's get this goddamn show on the road. I propel Ed Carpellotti in the service room, the coffin cart banging on the doorframe as I take the turn on 2 wheels. Had she been seeing him long? Was it him she was talking about at the Green Mill? Was I confused? Did I miss something? Was there a code she was using? Had she been saying I love you to me and I just wasn't listening? Does she have any inkling at all? Am I a fool? Blood is crashing against the rocks in my ears. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. Will someone not stop this ridiculous heartbeat? Surely everyone will hear it. Surely everyone in the room can hear it. But they do not turn. They do not hear. They do not see. I am not caught. Afterwards, Margaret Mary Walsh takes me aside and tells me she has never been so moved by a service. The woman has always been good and kind, one of my regulars. So I do not hit her. I was in a bus once in a large city, and sitting next to me was a young man. Across from the young man was a beautiful woman. They were making eye contact. Look at him. Look away. Look at her. Look away. Oh, the tension was enormous. We all got off the same stop. And as we stepped onto the sidewalk, the young man approached the woman and said, I noticed you on the bus. What courage that man had. What faith and daring. He had seen another face on this planet and thought to himself, I will not slink into the night regretting the lost opportunities, the might-have-beens. I will not die 1,000 cowards' deaths. I will gather every drop of strength I have. This will change my life. I noticed you on the bus. And the woman said, Sal, and walked away. He will always be my hero. The hospital called me at 11:22. An accident on the drive from the airport. Icy roads after Christmas, a slippery slope, a Jaguar over the hill. Bill Goodpaster is dead. So is his passenger. As Tessie's family is gone, Marvin Van Kirk will make the funeral arrangements. Marvin calls me after midnight. Will I take care of her personally? Oh, not one of the assistants or Pop, who still comes in occasionally. Me. You are always such a friend of Terry's. Terry? Huh. They bring her in the next afternoon. It's the law when there has been no previous illness or attending physician at the time of death to conduct an autopsy on the body, which means that certain surgical procedures have already been completed. I asked Pop to help me in the prep room. I don't want to be alone. He hobbles down, his cane, his shake. I notice her hair, gray at the roots. Was she letting it grow out, or did she just not have a chance to color it? I attach the machine. I prepare the instruments, needles, tubes, her partial played out. I smooth the crow's feet around her eyes. I do what we do to her eyes, her lips. What we do is we seal them. The funeral is crowded. Johnny Chris is there, and Joe Bethel, and Dale Featheringham, and Reverend Zimbro, Mr. Fill-in-the-Blank. Zimbro asks Marvin if there's anything he should add to the service. I open my mouth. Say something about Mexico, the Berkshires, and Spain. I have spoken too loudly. Heads have turned. Across the room, I see my wife. Oh, yes. Marvin tells us it was Terry's wish to be cremated. Her ashes will be scattered over Mexico, says Marvin solemnly. Whenever Marvin and Estelle save up the money to have a real vacation. We do the final viewing, the final service. The casket is closed. And by 3 o'clock that afternoon, Teresa is gone. Little known facts. Some things don't burn in a crematorium. Diamonds, some metals, heavier bones. Some things you can't burn, like pacemakers. The heat makes them explode. You could damage the inside of the chamber. That's why it's important to remove them before you set fire to the body. I found this in the preparation room. I really should have given it back to someone else. Keeps on ticking. Tonight is New Year's Eve. My wife is upstairs in bed early. There aren't any customers in the viewing rooms. For the first time in memory, we are entirely empty. Turn around. Turn around. Look at me, sweetie. Please, look at me this time. I'll say it again. I'll say it 1,000 times until you turn around and catch me. I love you. 1. I love you. 2. I love you. 3. I love you. 4. I love you.
I've been stealing jewelry off of corpses for years. Grandma'll be a fucking cinch. Let me go back. The phone call of the dead always comes between 12 and 1. Before 12, it could be anyone for any reason. After 1, it's a wrong number dialed in Spain. But if the call comes in between midnight and 1, the news is a houseboat on the river Styx, and no mistake, Charlie. When I get back to my apartment from the Viper Room, the electronic guy on the answering machine says 12:48. It's Donald's voice. Hi-ho, Mac. Father here. Calling from the Philadelphia house. Call us collect ASAP. Hope A-OK your end. 10-4. My father never says goodbye. He says 10-4 or A-OK. It's a superstition. If he says goodbye, he knows he'll die soon in a fiery plane crash. I look at the clock by the bed. 4:36 a.m. If it's 4:30 in LA, that means it's 7:30 in America. They'll be up now in Philadelphia, which is unfortunate because my call will not wake them. I pour myself a drink, vodka, as it's morning, and I dial. Donald picks up. It's Nettie. She died last night at Norton Place. We're driving down now. Can you get a flight to Pittsburgh? Do you need anything? Yes, I can get a flight out, and no, I don't need anything. Anything in our family means money. Roger then, over and out. We hang up. She's dead. My grandmother, Nettie James, is dead. This is my moment. My destiny has arrived. I pour another drink and rifle through a shoebox in the closet to find the black and white photo I know is there. This will go back with me. I look at the figure passed out on the bed. Someone in black named Raymond or Charlotte or Lassie. That won't go back with me. I should call US Air and get a flight at 9, but first I check my wallet. 20 and 3 ones. My bank account is overdrawn and my plastic is strictly dead zone. I need money for a plane ticket and a rental car and 3 days in the worst place on earth. I will have to go to work. The LA Times is delivered early, so I go to the door and head straight for Section D. Rosalind Marquardt, 83, Tarzana. No. Elizabeth Quilty, 65, West Hollywood. Nope. Miriam Cass, 86, Beverly Hills. Miriam Cass, survived by her husband Maurice, viewing at 9. So I'll get a later flight. By 9 a.m., I'm at the funeral home on Sunset Boulevard. My bag's in the back of the taxi I've asked to wait. I dawdle until a crowd is formed. Field of blue hair and blue stoles. Maurice must be the old blind guy in the 1964 Savile Row suit. Just pay my respects. My condolences. How I met Miriam? Mimi, yes. On the trip to Ceylon, exactly. How she spoke of Maurice. Yes, while he was sick in their stateroom. I'll just say my goodbyes. And then I'm on line 2 people away from the score open casket. I inhale, swallow. Somehow in this business it always feels like the first time. I close my eyes, bite my lips until the tears well up. I bend over to kiss Miriam, noting that she's absolutely encrusted. 2 pecks on the corpse on either side of the face, in the continental manner. When I pull back, my mouth is firmly shut. In a supreme effort not to lose control of my emotions. Back in the cab, I open my mouth and take out the earrings. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack Rubies. My friends will give me $3,000 for them. Enough for an open-end return ticket, a good rental car, and plenty of scratch until I get mine from Nettie James. 4 hours later, in a plane over the tundra, glass of champagne stapled to my palm. Thomas Wolfe wrote, "You can't go home again." Thomas Wolfe was a putz. Of course you can go home again. They make you go home all the time, endlessly. But this time is different. I'm going to get something from this trip. High over Ohio, I close my eyes and pretend I'm on the Charlie Rose show. The dark background, the Persian carpet, the good wood. Jodie Foster has just left, and Gore Vidal is in the wings. Charlie turns his clef to me. How'd you get into, well, I guess we'd have to call it corpse robbing, right? Right you are, Charlie. Well, it was like this, you big, dumb, handsome man they make read books. I had just moved from Stockbridge to L.A. I was broke, not acting. A friend of mine died. Bad death. I hadn't been to a funeral in ages, and they put me in charge of accessorizing him for the funeral. But his wrist was so small that his watch wouldn't fit. So I put it in my purse for later. It wasn't until 3 days after the funeral I realized I still had the watch. I was going to give it back, but it was a Rolex in a rough week. Anyhow, give it back to whom? So I rationalized keeping it, then selling it, and finding ways of doing it again. It's kept me in high 5 figures for the last 8 years. Never been caught. Knock on cherry wood or knotty pine. I even know other people in the business now. We recognize each other at funerals. Tricks of the trade stuff. Who's using lubricant, pliers, wire cutters. I knew a chick who used a magnet once. Now she was a fucking trip. Some jobs are dicier than others. I got a gold tooth once. Don't ask. But gosh, is there anything you won't steal? Sure. A wedding band, a friendship ring, a decoder ring. There are limits. But why do you do it? What do you want? Want? The touch of something that has touched another. Bring Gore Vidal out here, pal. Ask him what he wants. In Pittsburgh, I rent a BMW, and an hour out of the airport, past steel mills and strip mines and the same farm for 30 miles, I arrive over the river and through the woods to grandmother's funeral. Inside, the first viewing has begun. My parents, Donald and Dorothy, stand in first position at the head of the casket, greeting the dukes and barons of the town. In the far corner stands my Aunt Tita, pleasant, smiling, sweet, an idiot. In the back near the exit stands our only son, Gerald, and my brother, St. David the Perfect. I look out on a jungle of white poinsettias. It's gotten out that Nettie loved white poinsettias. Looks like we're burying her on the set of Dr. Zhivago. I peer under a snowy plant, and there I spot one lone figure. It's Josephine, Nettie's housekeeper from Norton Place. She was my grandmother's H.R. Haldeman. You know me, Josephine? She nods. Do you remember me, Josephine? She does. You're the bipolar bisexual drug addict. Donald and Dorothy throw an imperceptible glance my way. It's more of a glare. To anyone else it wouldn't be, but to a James it's a glare. Kind of like how dogs can only hear certain sounds. My brother David is suddenly sidled up to me. I can smell the Pepto-Bismol in his breath. After the viewing, Mother and Father would like to speak to us. And then he slips back to his post near something called the flowers from something called the First Church of the Charismatic Assumption. I sense tension in the room. They're all acting. Well, they're all acting as if someone died. Nettie was 103 years old. This funeral has been in rehearsal for so long, it's had replacement casts. Yet somehow the relaxed jocularity one expects with the death of a very old, very demanding, very rich Harridan is entirely absent. I mouthed to Josephine, "What's going on?" She smiles. "There's a new will." Family has gathered in a spare viewing parlor where my father, Donald, is interrogating a young local attorney named Danny Spar about how it could have happened. $5.2 million left to the First Church of the Charismatic Assumption. The Norton Place and the Lake House left to Charismatic Alternative Families, Inc. My wife's mother left the entire family fortune to a bunch of crazed, holy roller devil worshippers. Danny Spore shrugs. I warned you to disconnect your cable TV. The will has been read. The money is gone. This they will have to get used to. But I have not come for money. I have come for something else. Let me go back. In the black and white photo I brought from LA, a beautifully coiffed 60-year-old woman holds the hand of an equally beautifully coiffed 5-year-old girl, with eyes red from crying. Well, you can't see the red in the black and white, but you can see the tears. It's 1963, and I am not going to the beauty parlor. I'm screaming in the back of the big blue Packard. My grandmother decides to calm me down by taking me to the big department store, The Hub. She takes my hand, and as we enter, hundreds of shop clerks rush to greet us, bending, groveling, rubbing their hands together. Mrs. Bordenkirker from the shoe department. Miss Carver from the dress department. Morton Linkoff from jewelry. They give her presents. Something especially important seems to come from Morton Linkoff. Something wrapped in a box. Nettie turns to me and says, "You see, if you're nice to people, they'll give you things. Tell you what, you be a good girl getting your hair done, and Nettie will give you what's in this box." And she opens it up. Inside is a beautiful tear-shaped ring. It seems to sparkle with all the jewels in the planet. I've never seen such color, so many facets, such light. I would do anything for this ring. And so I do calm down. And I do get my hair done. And when we're back at Norton Place, and Josephine's about to take our picture, I say to my grandmother, "So where's my present?" And she says, "Oh, that was just something I said. You can't always get what you want." And the ring goes on her finger. The family returns to the viewing parlor where the second viewing has begun. There's a crowd around the coffin, so I decide to take a stroll through the competing parlors. I peer around casing the joint when I notice a little old lady that's always at these funerals. She has her own chair. See her coming at me through the white forest. Her name is Margaret Mary Walsh, and she's known me since I was, I don't know, an embryo, sperm with eyelashes. We trade in name nonsense for a while. And then she remembers the missing piece to my puzzle. "And how is your husband and your family?" Imperceptibly, I could feel David flinch, Aunt Tita wince, Donald and Dorothy blush, but I am fine. I say to Margaret Mary Walsh, "I'm not married anymore. My husband never fixed the kitchen door." This seems to satisfy her. The crowd around the coffin has gone on a coffee break, so I make a beeline for the casket. I peer in at my grandmother. A voice nearby murmurs, "She looks good." I nod. She looks like Stalin. Her hands are crossed, one on top of the other. She always wore the dinner ring on her right hand, and that's the hand I cannot see. It's covered by the other. My fingers itch to pick it up, turn it over, but I keep my cool. Just looking. How am I going to find out if she's wearing that ring? Suddenly Donald is at my side. Mac, we have a problem. Seems that Nettie's new will left instructions specifying certain pieces of jewelry she wanted to be buried with. The funeral home won't take responsibility for the pieces overnight. It's their policy that the family should do the physical removal from the body and take the pieces and leave them at home until the morning. Now, your mother is in no state to do it, nor is Aunt Tita, nor me, nor your brother David. He can't touch dead people. David is a surgeon, okay? Mac, we'd like you to do it. Oh, I couldn't. Mac, your mother and I didn't stop you when you moved to Los Angeles, when you should have stayed in the hospital in Stockbridge. We didn't even try to stop you when you changed your first name from Jane to Mac Teague. This is a family service we're requesting, one that we expect to be performed. Unless, of course, you feel you are incapable. I looked at my parents. All right. Sure, I've been stealing jewelry off corpses for years. Grandma be a fucking cinch. I go to the body. I remove the jewelry. I make it all seem like it takes a lot longer than it does. Then I very deftly flip her left hand over her right. There's no dinner ring. Her fingers are bare. I pat her down like a cop at the airport. It's not there. Nothing. In a daze, I take the other pieces and I give them to Donald. And then I take my rented BMW and go to a place called the Green Mill where I get drunk with a feed salesman named Dwayne, who can't get his wedding band off fast enough. An action that makes me so sad and depressed, I say horrible things about feed salesmen and go back to Norton Place very alone. I'm in the pink room of my grandmother's house, in the pink bed that's been mine since I was a child. In the darkness, I dream of Jack in the night. Jack in our house in Stockbridge, holding hands with Paul and Lainey by his side. Why can't you love the littlest things, he says. The things you can hold in your hand. What do you want from this world? So many things you can't hold on to, like color and facets and light. And then, in the dream, he takes my hand, he puts 3 rings on my fingers, and he says, "Is that why you tried to kill yourself?" Yes. I left our bed, and I went into the garage, and I sat in the car on the cold, cold night, and I turned on the ignition. I tried. Didn't work out the way I planned. The next morning, I called the airport to get the first possible flight to LA. My bags are in the back of the BMW. Inside, I'm at my post for the 3rd and final viewing. When out of the field of poinsettias, I notice a tiny bald man deep in conversation with Josephine and Margaret Mary Walsh. They're whispering together. Then they turn to me, and the bent, hobbled old gnome approaches. It's Morton Linkoff. Morton Linkoff from the Hub. He's ancient now, like Yoda. And much to my surprise, because what are the chances? He says to me, "And how is your husband and those 2 kids?" My words come out as ever. I'm not married now. My husband never fixed the kitchen door. I try to leave, but he's persistent. "You know, I remember when you first came into the department store with your grandmother. Must have been 30 years ago. The day you had your first hair done. Your grandmother, she came in to pick up a ring your grandfather had me design for her. A dinner ring. Beautiful thing. The one she's wearing right now." I'm in Morton Linkoff's oxygen. My face is so close to his. You mean the tear-shaped ring? Yes, he beams. Beautiful work from a talented wholesale genius that had in Hackensack. Used to come to town 2 or 3 times a year. Your grandmother sent it in to be cleaned before she died. I just give it back to Mr. Funeral. Your grandmother, she wanted she should be buried with it. And who would argue with the dead? It's there. It's there. Why shouldn't I take it? It is by rights. It is by rights mine, and I want. The service is about to begin. The family is to pay its last respects one by one. As they do, I go to the powder room so that when I come out, I will be the last one. This is an affront to protocol, I know, but it's the best method. It's worked a billion times before, it'll work again. Out of the bathroom, I sustain the glares, but I am resolute. No one dares stop the emotional granddaughter from her final embrace. I approach the subject. My grandmother, my mother's mother, the source of my being, cold and dusted pink and blue. I look down. The ring is there. The eagle has landed. I grip the side of the casket and bend my face towards her. Place a kiss on her cheek and my hand upon her head. The ring is harder to remove than I had hoped, as if her fingers swelled. I pull, nothing. I twist, nothing. I do not want to break her finger. I mean, it is an occupational hazard, and I don't want my grandmother to be my first snapper. And then I look down, because Nettie's eyes, my grandmother's eyes, are wide open and watching me. Grandma? Hello, Jane. Going to steal my ring? Maybe? Sweet Janie, why have you been lying to my old friends about that family of yours? Her hand has mine locked in a grip so strong, so tight, my fingers will break. You've been lying, Janie. I won't let go till you tell Grandma where that husband of yours is and my 2 great-grandchildren. I'm trying to pull away, but her hand has my wrist. Now my elbow, now pulling me deep towards her face. Tell me the truth, Janie. Why have you been lying? Where is your husband and my 2 great-grandchildren? I'm running a cold sweat. I look around the room for my family, and there's no one there. Where is your family? Where is your family? Where is your family? I scream. My husband never fixed the kitchen door! And when I finally fell asleep in the garage, I woke up in the hospital, and I asked, where's my husband? Where's my daughter? Where's my son? And then he said to me, because the garage was attached to the kitchen, and because the kitchen door had never been fixed, the lock had opened, and the door had opened, and the air from the garage had drifted into the house, into the bedrooms. And my husband, my children, my littlest things, it had killed them while I slept. Let me go back. Let me go back. Let me go back! And the ring comes off. Someone touches my shoulder. It's time to close the casket. At the gravesite, they lower the coffin deep into the ground next to my grandfather's old headstone. The earth begins to hit the top of the casing with a sound that is unmistakably it. I'm listening to the minister talk about the gift of the homemaker, the ring still clutched tightly in my hand. I did not die the day I tried to kill myself. They buried my family before I had a chance to touch them, hold their hands one more time. Jack's wedding ring, Lainey's friendship ring, Paul's decoder ring, all deep in the ground before I had a chance to wake up. But I am alive. And my grandmother's ring is cold to my touch. It is not what I want or need. The minister is finally finished. My mother steps forward and throws in a clump of dirt. Then Aunt Tita, Donald, and Gerald, and David. Finally, it's my turn. I go to the hole cut out of the planet. I gather the dirt, and I let it fall. A clump of a clod of earth, a sprinkle of grain and rock, a rain of dust, and the silver note as the ring hits the top of the lid and disappears into the ground forever. In Stockbridge, Massachusetts, where I lived for years, there's a place where my other family is buried. I have not yet visited them, but I know the way there. In the darkness, I pray for the touch of a hand that has known my touch too. The call of death is not strange in the night. No one can ever steal anything from my family again. Tears freeze in the cold. When they hit the rock, they break into a shattering of colors and facets and light. I gather them close to me, and I am warm, like a thief in the night.
Ed always said I couldn't keep my mouth shut. Well, he didn't always say it. I think he said it once. He was never a talker. I mean, even before we got married, he'd clam up at dinners, at parties. I'd say to him, Ed, at least look like you're talking to me. So he tried. Whenever he didn't have anything to say, he'd turn to me and he'd start to mutter. Mary had a little lamb. And I would come back. His fleece was white as snow. And everywhere that Mary went, well, you get the idea. Now, people thought we had quite a rapport. Well, now, Ed gave up smoking 4 months before he died. When he had his first heart attack, he'd been on the patch for 4 months. Even while he was in the hospital, before the second one hit him and all the funny business started to happen, Ed joked, I'm down to 2.5 patches a day. And I tell him, the most important thing is our sex life. It's just not romantic to turn to the person next to you after it's all over and offer her a small package to stick on her rib cage. He still had one on him, pumping away the night he died. That was in Pittsburgh. Now, we moved Ed to Allegheny General when things started to go haywire. St. Joseph's here in town isn't equipped for that kind of thing, by which I mean decent hospital care when your life depends on it. We moved Ed on Thanksgiving morning during the broadcast of the Macy's parade. Now, Debbie made all the arrangements, but by the time the ambulance got him up there, his watch and one of his rings had been stolen. They even got his gold medic alert necklace. I mean, we should have taken them off. Debbie said she even thought about it, but it felt too creepy wrestling her father's jewelry off of him before they carted him away. Something about it being too Dickensian for words. I never know, what is she talking about? So, Ed gave up smoking on Labor Day, and he had his first heart attack on Halloween, his second on Thanksgiving, and he died just before Christmas. Well, he loved holidays. So when we brought him back to the funeral home, the undertaker's assistant asks us if there was anything else he could do to make Ed look more natural. Give him a goddamn cigarette. Natural. He's dead, wearing bifocals and a hairpiece. What is going to help with the illusion of reality? Oh, he had a lot of his hairpieces in the bathroom, and all of his hair on these little white heads, and you could watch Ed age on these heads. After the funeral, Debbie tells me that she slipped a pack of Camels into her father's pocket, sort of as a symbol, like the Egyptians or the Vikings taking a talisman with them into the great beyond. What is she talking about? She's back home now in Wisconsin with her second husband, the assistant provost, and the twins, and her unfinished novel about a woman in Wisconsin with her second husband and the twins. I thought about calling her after the funeral when things started to happen, but she's listening to Prozac now. I don't want to interrupt. I don't remember where or when I met Ed. Tootie Vaughn would remember. Now, she is my best gal friend. She remembers things like this. I don't. All I remember is living at home with Mother and Daddy. And then there was Ed. He'd left his father's grocery store, and he was going to build highways, roads, and bridges. He had no money, he had no prospects, and Mother and Daddy, they did not approve. I even had to sneak out of the house to see him once. Mother and Daddy thought I had gone out with Tootie Vaughn to see Martin and Lewis and my friend Emma Goes West, but I had gone out to Stone Road with Ed. When I got back, Tootie Vaughn was in our living room with a guilty look on her face, and Daddy quizzed me as to where I had gone. I always know when I've done something wrong. I start to sweat on my, it's not polite to say it, but my collarbone. I flush, I get red there. I mean, no one can see it, but I can feel it. I lied, of course. I said I had so gone to the movies, and Daddy said, prove it. So I made up an entire plot for My Friend Irma Goes West. And the next night I went to see My Friend Irma Goes West. I was so surprised to learn just how close I had come. I wasn't there when he died. Debbie wasn't either. No one was there. It was 3 a.m. the week before Christmas. The nurses told me that he didn't make a sound when the aneurysm hit. But I said, why didn't he cry out? Isn't it painful? And they said, oh, yes, but what with the dementia that set in after the second cardiovascular infarction, your husband's responses had become neurologically inappropriate. the service, Margaret nearly wall, she tells me. He was lucky to go that way, I guess. I mean, he did recognize Debbie once toward the end, but he thought that we were in Las Vegas. He thought I was his mother. And one night he saw a cow in the room standing behind me. Yeah, I said, I would like to die in Las Vegas with my mother and a cow too. The funeral was a lot of people. Ooh. Bob LeClapp from the bank and Dino Disburbio from Smith Trucking, Ed's brother Frank. Funerals make me tired. I mean, even other people's funerals. I do not know how the undertakers do it. I mean, I know they prefer the title mortician, but that always sounds like death with air freshener to me. Now, undertaker is just right. They undertake what we cannot bear. When did I meet Ed? I mean, where did I meet my husband? So it's 3 days before I could get down to the office. Now, the way the will is written, I am now president of Ed Carpelati, Inc. President. Debbie asks me over the phone if my first official act will be to recognize Cuba. I laugh like I know what she's talking about. At the office, Ed's secretary, Joy, shows me what our attorney said I needed to see. Well, on paper, it looked like the construction business had been business had been bad, I mean, the past year or so, but the files showed assets. We'd be fine. I said that to Joy, we'll be fine. And she is just looking at me. So I went to see our attorney the next day. Now, I do depend on Danny Spar, but it is hard to invest a lot of authority in the little boy who used to deliver your milk. So I go down to his office in the bank building, Bob O'Clock's bank, where Ed's company did business. And Bob is smiling and waving at me from behind the glass doors in the lobby. He's making a motion with his hand that either means to give him a call or he wants me to stir his coffee with my fingers. Wait back. Danny, excuse me, Daniel. And I began to talk about Ed, about the funeral, about what a wheeler dealer Ed was. And then Danny takes out a file marked bank. Virginia, did Ed ever ask you to sign anything over the past year? Any papers, documents, agreements? I can feel it as he asks that question. The heat begins to rise on my collarbone. I was always signing something or other. I mean, Ed was such a one-man band, wheeling and dealing, and Danny is just staring at me. Ed always said I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I told Tootie about those papers when I visited her and her new husband in Boca Raton last April. I mean, I tell Tootie everything. Could she have told? Virginia, do you remember signing anything that looked official? Delivered our milk. I mean, you cannot lie to a blue-eyed boy who used to deliver your milk. I nod, and then Danny hands me some papers from the file. Business loans from Ed Carpelati, Inc. Business loans from Bob O'Clock's bank to Ed Carpelati, Inc. Business loans secured with equipment and machinery and high boys and low boys and tractors and bulldozers. I mean, every asset of the company. Business loans that were signed personally, which means now since Ed got me to sign those papers, that I am now personally responsible for these loans, totaling over $500,000. Danny tells me that Ed was behind in his payment. He was 6 months behind, and that the bank has frozen my assets, the CDs and the IRAs and the savings account and the checking accounts. And Danny says that frozen is a euphemism. They're going to take the money unless I can find a way to pay off the loan within the week. On the way out of the building, I see Bob O'Clock again through the glass doors, his gray suit, his pinstripe hair. And what I do next, I've never done before in my life. I hurry out of his bank so he will not see me. I turn my head, I run away. I go home to the house on Bray Barton. Well, there's still lots of flowers and food left over from the funeral. In the refrigerator, there is a casserole made up entirely of boiled apples, Spam, and noodles. Nobody knows who brought this. It is pretty scary. But Debbie says we should keep it until it learns to talk. So then I go into Ed's den, where he spent most of his time at night on the phone, talking to his foreman, Joy, other men. Sometimes he shut the door. And then I go into the sunroom where I live. Oh, there are 3 messages waiting for me on the answering machine that Debbie bought us to prove that she really phones home every Sunday. The first is from Tony Vaughn in Boca Raton. Oh, she's telling me that George Erskine died in his office at the glass factory. He keeled over in the middle of a meeting with his auditors. He and Nancy were to go. They were going to go into Hilton Head on Saturday. The second's from Debbie. Oh, she's been invited to a writers' conference in Saskatchewan. But for some reason, she has to pay for it herself. Oh, and she even mentions the exact amount. And would I like to get away from town to babysit the twins for a week? And the third call is from a voice I don't know well.
Jen, hey, this is Dino Disperbio here. Hey, like to see ya. Like to take you to lunch. Give me a call. I hate these fucking things.
That's what he said. So I looked for his number in Ed's book, and I called him back, and I said, oh, Mr. Disperio, I would love to have lunch, but to tell you the truth, I'm just basically not up to it yet.
Well, we have some business to discuss, Jen.
I'm free now, Mr.
Hey, not over the phone.
So I agreed to meet him the next day at the Green Mill Luncheonette. Now, everybody in town likes to do business at the Green Mill Luncheonette instead of in their own offices. Now, what do they do in their own offices? I ate lunch, I guess. So on the way in, I see Dino waiting for me at a booth in the back. Now, I won't say he's fat, but almost anyone else would.
Sit down, Jen. You looking good, Jen. Are you wearing any federal wiretapping equipment?
This is the first time I've ever been asked this question, but I think I handle it well. No, I'm not. Not today anyway, but thank you.
Jen, let me get to the point. You know your husband Ed, he was a real deal. We had a lot of laughs together, a lot of fun, a lot of cups of coffee. Then he cuts into a piece of peach pie. Ed ever ask you to sign a piece of paper, Jen?
My collarbone has been on fire. I mean, ever since I heard his voice on the phone the other day.
Jen, you see, Ed wanted to sell me half of this landfill he owned. I think he needed the money, Jim. But I told him, I said, hey, Ed, I don't think I want to buy into a partnership, but I could loan you some money, how much you need, and it tells me, and I give it to him. How much did you give him? $500,000. At what percentage? 50. I'm not a financier, but even I know that's not a good rate. Jim, do you remember signing a piece of paper? I nod my head. You have the money, Jim? I shake my head. Well, what are we gonna do? Dino is the owner of Smith Trucking. They own no trucks. There's never been a Mr. Smith. I go home to the house on Bray Barton. I look at the answering machine, the red light that says I have 4 messages. Oh, the first is from Tuddy Vaughn in Boca Raton. Art Weiss was found dead in the drugstore he owned. The store has been closed by the police. His files have been sealed. The second call is from Danny. He has to get back to Bob O'Clock. The third is from Bob O'Clock. Would I like to have lunch at the Green Mill? And the fourth is from Debbie. Her Mazda was in an accident. Her Mazda was in an accident. I assume that means she was in an accident, but by the way she says it, it sounds like the Mazda had the night off and got into trouble. The repairs will cost more than the insurance will pay. She even mentions the exact amount. I got to call someone in the family who can help. So I pick up the phone, I tell it's Brother Frank. What's the problem, Virginia? Not over the phone. So the next night I meet him up at the club in the grill room, which we all call the coal room because of the coal wall that the James family donated in 1959. Debbie says that looks like something Frank Lloyd Wright would have done if he had spent too much time in Appalachia. So Frank is grinning at me from a table in the bank. How you doing, Virginia? I'm fine, I say, and I'm not wearing a wire. It is so strange to look at Frank, to see the parts of Ed in him. Like he's a dream of Ed that's not quite right. Now, Frank is a developer, so we talk about the property market, and his son Randy's pending marriage to one of the Wickham girls, which pleases him and his wife Lorraine no end. Now, Randy is being groomed to run the business, but he still lives at home. Debbie calls him Boo Radley without the charm. Over the shrimp cocktail, I start my speech about Danny and about Bob O'Clock and about Dino. And finally I stop, and then Frank speaks. Virginia, you know Ed was a real wheeler dealer. How much did he borrow? It was $300,000, Virginia. At 50%? And Frank looks hurt. I was his brother, Virginia. I gave it to him at 18%, truth be told. I am really taking a beating. So I explained to him, I have no cash, I have no savings, I have nothing that isn't encumbered or frozen. And then Frank speaks. You have the house. I blink at my husband's brother. You see, Virginia, Randy and Courtney are getting married next month, and they'll be back from St. Bart on the 1st, and well, they were thinking of building on some property I have behind McLaughlin Manor, but well, Randy's always loved your house. He likes old houses, you know. Big old houses with lots of character. He should get one then, I think. And those trees, those big oaks lining the street out front. Remember how he and Debbie used to play together in those trees? They never played together in those trees. Randy took his pants off. He threw rocks at cats from the fourth oak on the right, while Debbie stayed in her room reading something called The Bell Jar. Now I can arrange to have Rand and Court in there by, well, let's say the 15th. New paint, new rugs. Lorraine's got some ideas about the master bedroom. I go home to the house on Gray Bar. I look at the answering machine, the red light that says I have 6 messages. The first is from Tootie Waddenberg, who returned. It turns out George Erskine died because he was embezzling from his own glass factory. And Art Weiss was a suicide because of some phony prescription drug deal at the store. What is with these guys, she says, and then she hangs up. The second is from Danny. We have to have a meeting. He says he's willing to come to the house. The third is from Bob O'Clock, secretary. Mr. O'Clock wants to see me and he's willing to come to the house. The next call is from Dino Disperbio. He wants to come by the house and bring a friend named Vinny. The fifth is from Lorraine. Oh, she knows of an apartment for rent behind the shopping mall parking lot. And the sixth call is from Joy at the office. Do I have any idea about how to make this week's payroll? I go upstairs to bed. As I walk through the hall toward the steps, I stop. Under the front door, something is sticking out. It's a manila envelope shoved halfway through the door. I open the door. Below 0 out. The snow is on the grass and there's ice on the oaks. The street is real quiet. I take the envelope. I close the door. I go up to my bedroom and into my bathroom and I lock the door, and Ed's hairpiece is watching me as I open the envelope. It's a white piece of paper with letters printed on it like a kidnapper's ransom. I have a list of 13 things about Ed Carpellotti, embarrassing to him and to others. Have $1 million ready by this Friday. Small bills unmarked in a suitcase, or I will release the list. No. Not surprisingly, it's unsigned. George Erskine was embezzling from his own glass factory. Art Weiss was selling prescription drugs under the counter. Ed Carpellotti was. What will they say about my husband? 13 things more? What is it about these men who built their businesses, they grew their families, they constructed fortresses with their own hands, and yet they died so frightened and so alone they could never tell their wives their secrets, their fears? Ed was Catholic, I am not. That was a bone many years ago. But I am beginning to understand some things. I am beginning to understand sin. I mean, not the mortal sin of venial sin, but the sin of failure. The secular sin that knows no organized religion. Who do you go to when you have committed that? Who lights a candle? your lawyer, your banker, your brother, your godfather. No one absolves failure. You go mad, you pray for death and madness, a cow in the room in Las Vegas with your mother. He'd run out of ideas, plans, wheeling and dealing, and the last place he dreamed of was a land of gamblers in the middle of a desert. I live in my husband's desert now. I owe 3 times as much money as I thought I had in the world. I am a widow. I am supposed to be drinking gin and tonics on a terrace with Tootie and Boca Raton. I'm a widow. We're supposed to buy new cars after our husbands die. I have not told Tootie. I want so badly to tell my friend Tootie. I lay out my silver, my china, my crystal, my jewelry, everything on the tiny room table. I don't know where am I going to sell this so quickly, but it won't come close to what I need for Bob O'Clock and for Frank and for Dino and whoever sent me this note. Friday is 2 days away. There are 46 messages on the answering machine. I do not return those calls. I have not told a soul. I have not told a soul. I am screaming so softly, so dimly, so no one can hear me. Where did I meet my husband? Why can't I remember where or when I met my husband? I pick up the phone and I dial 21 Boca Raton. We trade bits and pieces for a while about who's sick, who's dead, and my Tootie and Boca Raton was more about what's going on at home than anyone who actually lives here. And then I fall apart and I tell her everything. Did you notice this cane? This belonged to my Aunt Stella. I took care of Stella her last few years, about the time Ed bought our house, and Debbie was teething. Oh, Stella was a crazy old drunk. Oh, she had one eye, she smoked cigars, she drank gin out of a bucket. In pictures, she looked like an ancient female pirate in a wheelchair with this wild white hair and toothless grin behind a black eye patch. Debbie says that she looked like the illegitimate daughter of Miss Havisham and the Hathaway shirt man. I think I actually get that one. Stella gave me this cane at the nursing home the day they took her in. I said, Stella, you keep this. You may need it. And she shook her head and she winked her eye at me and she said, you hold on to it. Oh, you will need it. I like this. I won't sell this. It is amazing how the deadlines come on the same day. The bank deadline, and Dino Smith Trucking, and Frank, and the note. I am sitting in my sunroom at 8:30 a.m. in the morning waiting for the hordes to descend upon my door. And it helped to tell Tootie about everything about the list, and she promised not to tell a soul. The first call comes in at 9 o'clock. Virginia, Bob O'Clock, Ginny Bob O'Clock here, hi. Say, I understand there's a gee willikers, a kind of list somebody's got about Ed and some of his wheelings and dealing and well, Jane, I just want you to know that I am sure that whatever is in that list is just a darn pack of lies, and that the bank will certainly do anything it can to make sure it isn't an embarrassment to you or to others. We will do anything. I will do anything. Anything. Don't worry about the loan. Just keep it to yourself. Then he hangs up. The second call comes in at 10:40. Yo! Gentino, you hate this list thing. What do you say we call it even, huh? Square one, 0, 0. Don't call back. I hate these fucking things. The last call comes in just before dinner. Virginia, Frank here. Long pause. Randy and Courtney will be living at home for the foreseeable future. Call me if you need. Oh, Tootie Vaughn says hello. Tootie! Tootie blab to everybody. And the idea of that list has scared them off. What is in that list? What kind of dealings did Ed have with Bob and with Dino and with Frank and with whomever? For the rest of Friday, I wait for another demand from the author of this note, but it doesn't come that Friday or the next Friday or the Friday after that. Within the month, we begin to dissolve the business, sell off the assets. Since the loans have been forgiven and the creditors quieted, Danny tells me that I'll have some money to invest and retire on. I can buy a new car. I don't need a new car. At the office, Joy handles most of the real work, and I just sign the papers. The last one I sign, I tell her, I am recognizing Cuba. Joy is, she's just doesn't know what the hell I am talking about. So I am flying to Wisconsin tonight to babysit the twins. But first I had to stop here at the funeral home. There's another service. Someone dies every day. And Joy, she offered to drive me, and she wanted to come inside. We're a little early, and we're waiting inside the smoking lounge. And I told her that it was not necessary. It was not necessary. I have my cane. I have a copy of the bell jar. I'll be fine. But Joy wants to keep me company, and she seems odd, so I don't say no. We have never been close. Joy loved my husband, and that has always made it strange. So we sit in silence. Finally, the last viewing begins, and I stand up, and Joy is holding a manila envelope just like the one that was slipped under my door. It's from Mr. Carpelati, she says. And then she walks away quickly. I wait until Margaret, Mary, Blanche, and the rest of them is going to the parlor. Inside is a list. One, I have never loved any other woman but you. Two, I cannot look at your hand without wanting to hold it. Three, I wanted to build you a house, but you loved the one on Bray Barton so much the day we drove by I never had a chance to change your mind. Oh, 4. In my wallet, I keep a picture of you when you were 10 years old. I fall in love with you again every time I see it. 5. I think about you every night before I go to bed so I can dream of you in my sleep. 6. My Friend Irma Goes West is the best movie I never saw. 7. I have always understood our child more than she could ever imagine. 8. We met at the Green Mill Luncheonette on February 22nd, 1975. 9. I am writing this in St. Joseph's Hospital. I'm less scared than tired. 10. I have made mistakes. 11. But I think this last plan will work. Joy has my instructions. 12. You could never keep your mouth shut. I knew you would tell Tutti Vaughn about the list and she would tell the world. 13. Mary had a little lamb.
I wouldn't expect that for his line, right?
Seeing Our Lady. I'm not surprised.
Excellent job.
This was so good.
We may want to do it at the Hoboken School as a fundraiser. I spoke to Vivian about it.
I think it'd be great. That would be amazing.
Nice. Good work. Very interesting.
Did Allison come too?
Yes, Allison and Stella.
Oh, good.
And her father.
Oh, really?
Gosh.
Oh, lovely. Is it different?
It's a lot funnier than I expected it to be when I first read the premise.
They have to clear. She was saying, though, we're saying everybody has to clear out now.